would be tempting to think that evacuating a critical care unit is so rare that you'll never see one, or so difficult to an individual that you can't plan for it. However, these sort of events are situations where you do what you can with what you have, and you can maximise those things by planning in advance. In 2009, in London alone, over a 13-month period, there were 5 different hospital fires. In addition, this is not simply about fires. Hospitals or critical care units might need to be evacuated for plenty of other reasons. These can include flooding, other forms of infrastructure failure, security-related threats. Although every incident is different, there are some common threads which mean that you can maximise the ability to do what you can with what you have when it comes to the time. I think the important thing is to bring out the basic principles. What makes evacuating a hospital different from any other public building is that in a normal public building such as an office or a shopping centre, you're largely dealing with healthy, mobile people, and they are able to evacuate themselves, maybe assist with evacuating others, and you take the principle that you evacuate early on warning, you evacuate to a generic safe place, and any triage that needs to be done is for injuries that are associated with the incident itself, and the emergency services are used to picking up those people, sorting them and taking them to the nearest hospital and dealing with it from there. In a hospital, you're dealing with a different set of individuals. They're already ill, they're dependent on continuing care, and the process of moving them can be complicated. And we can see that if we look at examples such as an endoscopy patient who's under sedation, a labouring mother in the maternity unit, or a child who's on non-invasive ventilation. So there are complications with all of these. In the case of critically ill patients, the patients are unstable intrinsically from the nature of their illness. It can take a long lead time to prepare them, and we know this from the amount of effort and time that goes into preparing a patient normally for a scan or to go from intensive care to the operating theatre. They are critically dependent on what's around them in terms of staffing, power, consumables, and they're physically difficult to move. They're on a bed, they're immobile, the bed has a large amount of equipment around it, and all of that can make it difficult to actually evacuate them. Another important point is that they're also dependent, even more than any other patient, on information. So a patient who's got a very complicated operative history, who's had chemotherapy, who's critically ill, can suffer from being moved without the information that goes with them. So this gives us a paradox with evacuating critically ill patients, which is that they can take a long time to prepare, so that process should be started early. But at the same time, if you make a decision to actually commit them to a move which causes deterioration, that can be harmful. So we have to be able to get them ready, but then decide exactly when and if to move them. It was
Beginning of January, we were at the Royal Marsden. It was ostensibly otherwise a normal day. Just in the early afternoon, a fire started in the roof space around the plant of the main building and spread fairly rapidly. Initially, because it was in the roof space, it wasn't apparent to those who were below, but the fire alarms obviously went off immediately. We were initially unsure as to whether this was either going to be a false alarm or merely a drill, but the smell of smoke became apparent throughout the whole building. And then as time progressed, pieces of the roof started to fall past the windows, and it was obviously at that stage apparent that there was a major fire.
Underneath each mattress is a ski sheet, which was absolutely essential for descending the stairs. We couldn't have done that otherwise.
We made a joint decision with the fire officers that we needed to do a vertical evacuation. And obviously a vertical evacuation is quite a big deal, because we've got critically ill patients which you're then going to have to take off the beds with their mattresses, with all the equipment and the rigmarole that needs to go with that, and then to take them down the stairs, being pulled manually by the staff. Never having done it on that sort of scale before, there are inevitably all sorts of obstacles to your path.
I suppose the first thing that happened when we found out that there was a fire at the Marsden was that we responded immediately to their call for extra capacity, particularly in relation to the patients they had in intensive care. And they let us know very quickly they had 4 patients who were being ventilated, and they would need obviously to come to the critical care unit at the Royal Brompton. Care plan was put into action very quickly, and by the evening that was utilising staff from the Royal Marsden Hospital, so the patients had their own staff looking after them. Now, in some instances there is a clear and present threat and an immediate need to move, but I think it's important to remember that this is very much in the minority, and it's actually quite possible to do harm by prematurely moving a patient or moving patients when they don't actually need to be moved. So the most important aspect of this is command and control,
And in anything but the most extreme circumstances, getting a clear order to move from the hospital silver control, who have a full awareness of the situation and may know that the threat has gone or the threat has been controlled.
Because the Royal Marsden and Northwick Park are all in the same critical care network, we actually get information from one another, and so we were able to develop new plans from the information that they gave us. We knew there was a fire in the main block in the substation we'd heard, and we could hear the fire alarms going, but in our area they weren't. But we'd got a message that there was a major incident in the hospital and patients were being evacuated. I was delegated to go to the Silver Control where they were managing the incident. There I found out that the fire was really quite serious and they were evacuating all of the patients in the rest of the hospital. They said that we were quite safe where we were at the moment because we were in a separate block, but that we should be prepared to leave.
You can never eliminate every possibility. However, you can be as prepared as you possibly can be. And I think that whilst we managed successfully to safely transfer everybody last time, I think that if we were to do it again, we'd be better at it.
I think it's been a very big wake-up call and reminding all of us that these problems can occur anywhere, even in our own hospital. And I think that's pushed people on to thinking more carefully about what we would do if faced with a similar situation.